Hi guys, Rhi here. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Thank you so much for joining me again on the podcast. So today we are talking about something that I think a lot of us complain about quite a lot, especially us mums, and that is feeling tired all the time. Now there can be so many reasons that we're tired all the time, from overwhelm to medical reasons to babies keeping us up to stress to all the things. So some of those things are out of our control, like when our babies are teething or something, or our children are unwell and suddenly we can't sleep because we are being kept from our beds. And some of those things can be helped and assisted, and they are just a topic for another day, because today the aspect of feeling tired all the time we're going to tackle is how we can get more sleep when we are in bed, how we can set ourselves up for maximizing the amount of sleep that is on offer to us. So these tips can be put into place even if you have got a baby keeping you up or you've got stresses or whatever. So while we're not going to tackle every element of it today, we are going to talk about some really actionable tips and things that we can all do to get more sleep when we are in bed and to just feel then more energized when we actually get up. Isn't that the goal? Isn't that absolutely the goal? So a lot of these things I do myself. Some of them I'm much better at than others. We'll get to all that. So let's start with something that works for children and really we sometimes forget as adults, and that is, wherever possible, if we aim to go to bed at the same time and then to wake up at the same time each morning, because routine works beautifully for babies, it works beautifully for children, and you know what? It works beautiful for us adults as well. It does work really beautifully because our bodies respond to these rhythms, and when some nights we're going to bed at a reasonably sensible time and other nights we are staying up ridiculously late, and sometimes we're doing this because we don't have enough hours in the day to fit everything in. Sometimes we're doing it just because we're so overwhelmed that we get stuck in a scroll hole on social media. We end up binge watching an entire series of something on Netflix. And there is a word for it. I can't actually think of it off the top of my head. I think it's like revenge lateness or revenge getting your time back. What is that term? I should have looked that up before I started recording, really. But if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please do let me know in the comments. But we are sometimes going to... can't get my word out. We're sometimes going to find it very challenging to want to go to bed at a sensible time because we feel like we haven't had any time to ourselves. But ultimately, we end up feeling more tired and stuck in that dreadful cycle if we don't go to bed at a similar time each night. Now, I've got an iPhone. I don't know how Androids work. I'm sorry. So if you've got an Android, I apologize for this. But if you've got an iPhone, there is actually a bedtime reminder, and you can set what time you're thinking about getting up. You can set what time you suggest that you would like to go to bed. Your iPhone tells you if that is enough sleep, and it will jolt you and it won't jolt you, very gently remind you actually when you should be going to bed. And I personally find when I stick to these timings, I'm far more likely to be able to actually get up when I need to. So obviously that's not going to be possible for everybody if you're shift working, if you've got kids getting you up, but sticking to the time that you get up in the morning, again, that's probably going to be a lot more dependent on your kids and what you've got going on. But the time we can go to bed, I think that's the time that's, especially as mums, that we're in danger, perhaps, of just staying up because we're kind of overwhelmed and you're almost too tired sometimes to go to bed. Do you ever get that where you're just like, I'm just too tired to move? And actually, the best thing you can do for yourself at that moment is get your backside up to bed. The next one is limiting caffeine, specifically later in the day. So in fact, first thing in the morning as well. So I used to drink caffeinated drinks pretty much as soon as I woke up. I read somewhere that you don't need to do that very first thing in the morning. It actually messes with your rhythms of your day a little bit by doing that. And that really the first caffeine you're going to need, if caffeine is something you need, is more like mid-morning or like 9-10 a.m. So I try and not have caffeine until after 9 a.m. And then I also try not to have it too late in the day, because I find if I have anything caffeinated later in the day, you can't fall asleep properly. It just messes with your rhythms. So, I mean, some people are massive advocates for just cutting out caffeine. I'm not there. I'm not that person. But if perhaps you could be a little more aware of when you are having caffeine. Like my husband will have coffee when I'm putting the children to bed. So it's 7 o'clock. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to go to sleep now. And then he complains he can't sleep. And I'm just like, why? That's my question. So if that's a habit you're doing, then perhaps try and change it for a different drink, go for a caffeine-free option. But I find it really does mess with me if I have caffeine too late on in the day. Let me know you're the same. Let me know if you are the same. So when I say let me know, by the way, I have got this podcast now on a video version of the podcast on its own YouTube channel. So you just search Real Talk with Rhi on YouTube. If you are watching this, apologies, you've already done that. Hello. If you are watching, you may notice I've got a slightly different setup, slightly different mic. Let me know in the comments if it all sounds okay. But we're trying something different, a bit more chatty, a bit more of a conversation, a bit more of a different kind of setup. But if you are listening on your favorite podcast provider and you ever do watch/listen to podcasts on YouTube, then please do head over and give the channel a little subscribe. It helps. It really does help. And share it around, all that kind of stuff. So the next thing that I try and do, this habit I got into of to trying to sort of aid my sleep and help me fall asleep, is not showering too late. Because I personally find a shower wakes me up. It's a really good wake up, which is not something you want if you were trying to go to sleep. So I tend to shower quite early on in the evening. I often, as a little multitask, because my girls are old enough now, they have a bath and I just have a shower, which is obviously in the same bathroom. So I can kind of half keep an eye on them, have a shower. That's really early on in the evening. And then I can put my pajamas on. I'm feeling all calm, chilled and kind of snuggly after that. Because I find that if I go downstairs and then I relax and I've still got to go and do that showering process, I'm just like, ugh, and then I don't feel like doing it. But also then I feel, and I don't feel like doing it. Then I go and have the shower and then I'm awake and I can't sleep. So if you are in the habit of showering quite late, try it earlier and just see if it makes a difference, because it really, really, it does for me. It really does for me. The other thing is dimmer lighting. So excellent, hello. The A word's making beep beep noises, apologies. So the dim lighting in the evenings can really, really help. It can help to just make sure that your brain and all the chemicals in your brain are preparing for sleep, because bright light tells our bodies that it is daytime and we do not need to sleep yet. It releases the wrong kind of chemicals. Again, I probably should have looked these up before this episode just to make sure that I knew the actual words. I've got it all written down in a blog post and when I've filmed more sort of official YouTube videos. But you know what? I'm just kind of winging it a bit more with the podcast. It's being a bit more chatty, and that's the format. So I believe it's melatonin is the sleep hormone, and that is not released while we've got bright lights, and specifically blue lights, which we can get from our devices. So in the evenings, I tend to have dimmer lighting. So rather than having overhead lighting, we have off-center lighting and lamps and things. And if you are looking at devices in the evening, which obviously all the experts say, try and avoid doing that. But again, sorry, Android users, but I know there is an iPhone facility called Night Shift, and you set it up, and I've got it set up for sunrise to sunset, I think, but you can set it up for specific hours if you want. And during those hours, your phone and your iPad, the screen, it sounds awful, will kind of look more yellowy. And that's because it's not emitting that blue light into your eyes, which is telling you stay awake, stay awake. It's not going to interfere with your sleep as much because you're not having those blue lights into your eyeballs. It does look odd when you switch on Night Shift. Have a little play with it during the day. You can see the screen. There's like a tester on it, so you can see which colour the screen's going to be. It looks really strange and yellowy, but when you look at it in the evening, it kind of looks right. You're just going to have to trust me on that one, or go and have a little look at it. But look at, just go to the settings on your iPhone and search for Night Shift and set that up. And it's such an easy thing to do once. You can set it and forget it. And that will honestly help you sleep better if you are using your devices. Now, the ultimate advice is don't use your devices before bed. That's the ultimate advice. We're not all there. But the biggest one for me is stepping away from work and social media stuff in the evenings. For me, those things are very much interconnected because of what I do for my job. So I'm trying not to look at anything that could be triggering me to go down a rabbit hole of, oh my goodness, I've got to do this and this and this, or I'm trying to just stay off anything that's going to send my mind whirring, basically. So trying to stay off emails. I've got it set up on my phone that after looking at email for, I think it's a minute on my phone, it sets as a screen time limit, and it says, you've reached your limit on this. Because I know really I'm supposed to be dealing with email during the workday at my computer. I'm not supposed to be doing it before I go to sleep. And yes, I have the facility because I'm an adult. If you set up screen time for your kids, then they'd have to ask permission to override that. So as an adult, I can override that. But it's enough of a jolt to remind me, Rhi, you shouldn't be doing this. It's going to interfere with your rest, with your sleep. So I turn off that. I try not to look at social media at least for a couple of hours before bed. Not always possible. Like I say, with what I do for my job, sometimes I have to post things or whatever. But if you can just set those parameters, even if it's 30 minutes before you go to bed, or even if it's you can look at social media downstairs, but when you go to bed, then you're not to look at your phone in your bedroom, because they do say that your bedroom should be for sleeping and maybe other adult activities that we're not going to discuss here because children may be listening, but bedrooms should not be for watching TV or anything like that. Now, we used to have a really big TV in our last house in the bedroom. We did used to watch TV in bed a lot. And it actually was a really, really bad habit. And it did impact our sleep. And then TV would still be on and I'd be trying to sleep. We don't do that in this house since we've moved. And it's just so much of a better habit. So we do watch TV in the evenings. But then when I'm ready to go to bed, I can leave my husband. He still wants to watch it or whatever. And then the bedroom, I think your brain just associates this is a place for sleeping and you're just more likely to be able to actually go to sleep. It makes such a difference. Honestly, guys, if you haven't banned devices from your bedroom yet, then just give it a go for a week or two. Just trial it and see if it makes a difference to your sleep, because honestly, it really, really will. Now, having said I've banned devices from the bedroom, I do actually read a book on my iPad before I go to sleep. But I've got it set up so that I can only, without having to manually override things, read a book or listen to some of the stuff I'm going to tell you that I listen to before sleeping and during sleeping, which really does help. But we'll get to that. Reading. Now, obviously, you could read on a Kindle, which wouldn't be as likely to suck you into other things, social media and stuff, as your phone would. So that's an option. The other thing you could do is you could read an actual book. You could go old school and read an actual book. I personally like reading on my iPad because I can pick up where I left off. I can make the text bigger or smaller. I can read in the dark because I can have a very dim light on the back of my iPad. But I've got it set up so that during screen time, which is the other thing, so we've got night shift for the colors and screen time. So it sets up that all of my apps switch off on my phones and my iPad, other than books, audiobooks, and just a very small list of apps that I am allowed. Obviously, I'm an adult, I can do what I want, but that I know it's sensible to use during those hours, and all of the social media and the scroll hole, risks are shut down, and I would have to manually override that if I wanted to use them. So I did used to read and listen to a lot of personal development stuff before bed, and I'm a bit of a personal development book junkie. Self-confessed there. I do love it. I listen to more of them on Audible than I do actually physically read because I like to multitask. I like to listen to things while I'm moving around. But I did used to, when I was reading before bed, read a little bit of personal development stuff before bed. But then I'd find out it would give me all these ideas and I'd be all, oh, I could do this and I need to write this down. And I found that was waking me up and not calming me down. So recently I've switched to just reading a few pages of fiction before bed. And honestly, there is nothing that makes me sleepier than reading before bed. A few pages and I'm like, I'm going to go to sleep now. I go from, I'm not sure how tired I am, to good night. Good night, everybody. I am going to sleep now because a few pages and I am out. Now, the biggest shift I think that I made for helping me fall asleep easily and stay asleep is selecting certain audios to listen to. So I've got a few different things that I like, and I've got a blog post, I think, about listing all the different audios that I like and I use. So I will link that down below in the description in the show notes. But I like to listen to something to help me fall asleep. Now, I use my AirPods to do this, and I use them one at a time. In fact, I only ever use my AirPods one at a time, by the way. I find that even if I'm walking around, I don't like to have two in. If I'm at home, I can't hear the children. If I'm walking on the road, I can't hear cars, traffic, attackers, whatever. So I've only ever got one AirPod in at a time. And then when that one's going flat, I stick it back in the AirPod case and I put the other one in. So that's just an aside. But I have one AirPod in when I'm falling asleep. And what I do is I listen to a meditation or a hypnosis track about sleep. You can also get subliminals that will help you rewire your brain into pretty much anything you want to do. So if you want to have more confidence or be better in business or lose weight or sleep better or just be a kind and gentle parent, whatever it is, there will be a subliminal audio sleep meditation for that. You can get subliminal meditations on YouTube, on Audible. You can get them as audio books, you can get them as individual tracks for purchase. There are so many that you can get. So just have a little look around, have a look at the list I recommend. But you put this on, and honestly, it's like some of them, especially the hypnosis ones, you think, I'm going to challenge myself to stay awake through this. And I have no idea what they say after about 5 minutes in, which is just great because it means I'm asleep. And the other time I use this is if I am ever waking up in the middle of the night and, you've got the squirrels start going around your head. You're like, oh, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Have I got to do this? When you've got all that going on in your head and your brain is like, da, 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 and it just will not shut up, then put on one of these sleep meditations, sleep audios. And because you've got it in your headphones, then your partner won't be disturbed. You're not worried about anyone else listening to it or disturbing them, whatever. And you can just listen to this and you just repeat the process of, right, just listen to this, try and listen to it, and then I guarantee you're going to end up falling asleep, which is so much more productive because there is nothing more annoying than lying there thinking, I'm going to be so tired in the morning. Just literally nothing more annoying. Nothing at all. So I honestly have been doing that for a good while, probably since before Zara was born, maybe since before Bella was born. It's been a long time I've been doing that. And that's because I've always known that the time I've had, especially when I had small babies, multiple children getting up in the night when they were small, then I would know that the time I had that I was able to sleep was so limited that I knew I could not waste a second of it when I was in bed trying to fall asleep. I needed to maximize it and actually be asleep. And that's my probably biggest takeaway, my biggest tip is just to have something queued up and ready to go. So even if you don't use it every night, even if you just use it the nights you're struggling to fall asleep, then if you've got that there ready to go, you can just pop in your AirPod or a headphone of choice and just start listening to it. Have it queued up and ready to go because obviously you don't want to be into your phone, having to search for things, and then suddenly you're in a scroll hole. You don't want to fall into that scroll hole accidentally, as we've all been there, we've all done that. We don't want to fall into a scroll hole looking for this audio track. You want it kind of there on an easy to access, queued up and ready to go. Maybe put it on an app on the front page of your phone and leave it. It's like press play on it and then press pause so that it's totally ready to go. But I've been doing that for years. It makes such a difference. The other thing that might be helpful if you struggle with whirring, racing thoughts at night is just having a notepad at the side of your bed, because sometimes something that keeps me awake is I've had this really great idea and I'm worried I'll forget it. Or I've got this big worry that I need, or something I've remembered I need to do, and I'm worried I'm going to forget to do it. And by having a notepad at the side of your bed, you can take a pen, jot down your thought, your worry, your idea, whatever it is, and that's captured. So you're not then lying there going, oh my God, I'm going to forget it. Oh, I'm going to remember that. It's done, it's captured, and you can look at that in the morning. So you can say to yourself, it's safe, that thought is not going anywhere, it's captured on my notepad, and you can actually go to sleep without any guilt and without any panic that you're going to forget things. So the other thing that it's really important, and this occurred to me a few nights ago actually, is an alarm you can rely on. And this is because I had to get up a little bit earlier than usual because I had to film something early for my Disney channel. So I had to get up earlier, and I had that kind of, oh, am I going to get up? Am I going to get up? Am I going to forget to get up? Oh, am I going to forget to get up? Kind of thing you get before you get on holiday. And it occurred to me that an alarm you can rely on is really, really important. And sometimes what this might look like is setting multiple alarms, especially if you are guilty of hitting the snooze button, because there is nothing worse you can do than hit the snooze button. It makes you feel so groggy, and I am not perfect. I do often hit the snooze button, and then I regret my life choices because I feel worse than if I just got up. If you'd just done the thing from the Mel Robbins book, The 5-Second Rule, which is an amazing book, but the premise of the whole book is anything you don't want to do, you just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you move. You're doing it. And in the case of when your alarm goes off in the morning, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're getting out of bed. You're doing it already. There is no arguing. You just get on with it. But going back to this alarm you can rely on, it's worth sometimes just setting multiple alarms, because you think, oh, what if my alarm doesn't go off? It's like, well, it's okay because there's another one. And if you've got an alarm and you think, will it go off? Will it not go off? That's something that's going to keep you awake at night. And you do not need anything like that is going to keep you awake at night. Trust me. Another thing that's well worth doing is an alarm you cannot ignore. Now, classic examples of alarms you cannot ignore would be your children, where they wake up and obviously you have to go and see to them. If you do not have children that also act as alarms you cannot ignore, it might be worth putting your phone in a different room. So obviously that's not going to be easy to do if you're also using it to listen to the audio things, but this is just one idea. Or a physical alarm clock that is making a noise in a different room. Whatever it is, if your alarm is in a different room and you physically have to get out of bed to stop it making noise, then if you're someone that falls into the trap of snoozing, then that might be something that works for you. I did see the one doing the rounds on socials at the moment of people setting their alarms as applause. So they wake up going, oh, thank you to all the applause of well done you for getting up. I really did like that one. That was good. For me, my alarm's on my Apple Watch because I get up. My alarm at the moment is off at 5:05 every morning because I get up, I do journaling, I do a workout, and I do a lot of getting bits and pieces ready for the day before my family get up. And by having the alarm on my wrist, on my Apple Watch, it does buzz it. And then that means that it's waking me up because it's vibration on my wrist, but it's not waking my husband. So for me, the making a very noisy alarm in another room wouldn't work because it would disturb other people in my family, and then I wouldn't be able to get up before my family and do the things I need to do before they get up, which would totally defeat the object of getting up at that time. So obviously not all these ideas are going to work for everybody, but I know it's kind of like a buffet, isn't it? You just take what might work for you. And I can see that would totally work for me if my life was slightly different, but the way that my mornings are set up, that wouldn't work for me. But the alarm on my wrist does work really, really well for me. There are also certain apps you can use, and I'm not using this at the moment because just of timings, but there are apps you can use that if you're wearing a wearable fitness tracker, they can wake you up in the lightest element of your sleep. So you're not waking up in that deep, deep sleep, which is that, oh, what's going on? You know, we've all had that, haven't we, where your alarm goes off and you've been in a really deep sleep and you wake up feeling just startled and awful. Whereas these apps monitor when you're in lighter sleep and gently ease you out of it. And I've used those before and it has worked really well. Like I said, I don't use it at the moment because I'm sticking to timings. I'm trying to maximize the amount of time I'm physically sleeping and then getting up at the exact time I need to do skincare, get downstairs, sort myself a drink, journal, do the workout, all the things before everyone gets up. So there are so many factors that can impact your sleep, obviously. And if you are really struggling to sleep, it might be worth seeing a doctor. But one of the very basic things that we can do to make sure we sleep a little better during the day is just more exercise, just getting a bit more fresh air. There is a lot around at the moment, a lot of information around about getting some daylight, some sunlight, which can be challenging in the UK, but some sunlight on your face first thing in the morning. So I'm really trying to do that. And I read somewhere about not wearing sunglasses. Now, I'm always really guilty of wearing sunglasses pretty much all year round. In the summer, because obviously it's bright, and then in the winter because it's windy and my eyes water, and I find that the sunglasses keep that off my face and then my eyes don't water as much. However, apparently, and I've been trying this recently, if you go outside in the morning and you do not wear sunglasses and you try and just get some light on your face, it's going to help you wake up better in the morning and then be ready to fall asleep at night. It's just going to help that circadian rhythm and really help you be in the right flow, in the right rhythm to sleep at the right times. So that's something else that I'm trying at the moment. So far, so good. So far, I am finding that it's helping. I think it is helping. So if you are on YouTube watching at the moment, do let me know in the comments. Do you struggle to sleep? And what is it that keeps you awake? Why is it that you're not getting enough sleep? And which of these tips are you going to action? If you're listening to the podcast, I guess we're going to have to figure out a way to keep in touch, aren't we? I guess the best thing you can do, I've got it. You can just nab a screenshot of the podcast from your phone and share that on socials, tag me in it, and you can let me know over there. That's what you can do. Of course you can. Or you can take a photo of yourself, what you're doing. I love to see what you're up to while you're listening to the podcast. Tag me, Real Talk with Rhi podcast or Mummy04 UK, either one, doesn't really matter. And I can see what you're up to and share on stories too. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Real Talk with Rhi. And I will see you all again very soon in the next one.